Hey fam, welcome back. Tisha here, back for another recap of Welcome to Plathville. This is season 4, episode 8. I feel like a cow. This episode really didn't give us a bunch, but I'm just gonna jump to this point right here and then get into it. Contrary to what Kim wants to portray, I do not feel like she is the victim here. Having that conversation towards the end of the episode with her friend Charles saying, I'm his mom, but it doesn't basically count for much, is yet another way for Kim to act like she did not play a role in why things have deteriorated the way that they have. She acts like she was not judgmental, like she didn't tell Ethan he couldn't be around the kids without her being present, like she didn't use the younger kids at certain points as a pawn, like both she and Barry did not create this problem. I just don't understand how we're sitting here and we're trying to rewrite things and act as if these kids didn't have a legitimate reason to have a problem with their parents. But now that we're going to brush things under the rug and other children have forgiven them a lot easier, we're going to rewrite this narrative. I'm not going to do that. I think the both of them are to blame, but we'll get into it. Do me a favor, hit the like button, and we'll jump into this episode that really didn't have a lot. So, Mariah wanted to find another way other than music to express herself, so she picked up a new passion, which is dancing. Her intentions are to try all forms of dance because she really enjoys it. Now, when she was younger, I think she said she did a little bit of ballroom and ballet. But now she is really tapped into ballroom. It is giving her confidence and it's allowing her to express herself as well as embrace her femininity. Now, speaking of embracing femininity, we later see both Mariah and Olivia go to a pole dancing class. I said it before and I'll say it again. I've gone a couple of times. It is such a great workout. You do not realize how much of your body, your core, your arms, your back, how much you feel those muscles the next day after that workout. So they're sitting there. Now, I wasn't wearing 5-inch heels when I did it. I very much so stepped on my tippy toes because I was not about to do that to myself. But they're sitting there with a group of ladies discussing, the reasons why they're there and things of that nature. And then they get up and they get to work. For them, it's about them breaking through their mental blocks and getting more comfortable with their bodies and themselves by going against the very things that they've always been taught is wrong. So they get started and we see that Mariah is a lot more comfortable, or appears to be more comfortable, than Olivia. Olivia isn't loose. She's a little stiff and a little in her head, which is one of the reasons why we get the whole I feel like a cow thing, the title that we get, because at one point she does say that. I don't feel like she looks like a cow. I think it's just a thing where she needs to get more comfortable with herself. And I'm sure having a bunch of cameras and people that you don't really know and you're being that sensual is a little bit, nerve-wracking. When I went both times, no, I went more than twice, but the first 2 times that I went were with a bunch of people that I knew. One was for a bachelorette party and one was just to party. And we had a great time. Like, a bunch of us girls got together and we rented out the studio and we had a good time. But I've been to other classes with people that I'm not as familiar with. And I can see how you may be a little uncomfortable doing some of the moves depending on what the class is doing. So I think that the more that she does it, the more she'll relax. But overall, the ladies enjoy themselves. And I don't know if Mariah's going to stick with it, but it's something that she would do again. So, as a reminder, because we get told this every episode, Kim has moved back into the house. But she, in my opinion, is still more focused on herself and her studio with no dancers than she is with her kids. Because we see 18-year-old Lydia helping one sister doing her schoolwork while the other sister looks to be like she's in the kitchen preparing a meal. I don't know if Lydia had did some of it on her own, because we did see some things were on the stove, but she was in there doing something in those pots. For Lydia, she says the past few years of her doing the things that she does around the house, like the cooking and the cleaning, was a period of preparation. She claims that there was some points where her mother asked her if she needed some assistance, and she told her no, and now she looks at it like it helped prepare her. I think that Kim should have helped her whether or not she said no, because to put all of that on one person just because all of the older kids left, when we now know a lot of what Kim claimed that she was doing was a fluff piece, because later on, now that you want to get divorced, you want to say that Barry was your main source of income. Yeah. Anyways, but for whatever reason, she was so busy, and her mom said that, she would help, and she said no. So she said that at this point, her mother is still at the studio a lot, but her mother poured a lot into them over the years, especially with 9 children. She says she has a lot of questions. Her and her mother used to be close, but they have not talked. We've been told this every single episode since this season begun. She is waiting on her mother to come to her to basically, initiate the conversation. I feel like her mom should have spoken with her by now, especially because Lydia has done so much around the home and filled in the gaps so much that she should have had that conversation with her. She's 18 years old and she's taking on all these adult responsibilities, yet you're not giving her the respect of talking to her and allowing her to even express herself to you. But it's Kim we're talking about, and it's all about Kim. So Ethan and Micah ride their motorbikes down to Cairo. Ethan's plan is to run by the shop, while Micah's is to see some family. So he's hoping that his brother joins him in that. Now, out of all the kids, Ethan is still the only one who does not know about the separation of his parents. And Micah feels like it's time for him to know that it's been hard for all of the kids to come to terms with it. And I just can't help but feel like, how selfish is it of of Barry and Kim to tell their kids, especially the older ones who they know are in constant communication with one another, Mariah, who lives with Ethan, that they're getting separated, but not want them to tell it to Ethan. I get that y'all don't talk to him, but why make it to a point where the other kids are basically having to hide what they know? They're battling their feelings with this situation, and they can't even talk to their brother about it because he doesn't know. Not all the kids, I already said that. See, this is what happens when I go off script. Okay, Barry wants to talk to Ethan. So Micah says that, look, I told my dad, you want to talk to him, reach out to him. So all of a sudden, we hear a ding. So scripted. Ding! The phone. It's his father texting him. And Ethan announces, someone text me. It seems so fake to me. How many of you, raise your hands down below in the comment section, how many of you get a text message and announce that you got a text message? So the message, it's like, come on, y'all. So the message basically says, I heard you guys are here and I'd like to talk to you. If you like to talk, give me a call. Now, Ethan is surprised. He hasn't really sat down or spoke with his dad in 2 years, other than the time that they said goodbye when they were leaving for Tampa. He says that he was waiting for this. He was waiting for his dad to reach out. So even though he says, call me if you want to talk, Barry proceeds to call him. And Ethan says he's willing to talk to his father. He feels like his father misses him and genuinely wants to see him. As far as he's concerned, his father is remorseful for how their relationship deteriorated, and he wants to change things. But he doesn't think that his mother is remorseful about anything. Ethan's like, I'll come to the house and talk, but I ain't trying to go there with Kim. I want to have a conversation with my dad without the influence or input of my mom. So He admits that there were things that he did handle the wrong way. And he thinks that with a lot of what went on, that his mom was the drama, much like his wife, Olivia. I said, oh, so this is when you turn on her. This is when you try to make it seem like she's the only reason why there were problems. Seems to me like over the years, both Barry and Kim, as well as Olivia and Ethan, had faults, right? I think he gives his father more grace. One, because he's a guy. And two, because it seems as though Kim has always been the more vocal one in the situation. I feel like Barry, because of his belief system, did actually allow them to speak. We saw him have certain conversations at various points with like Lydia and things before it got to this point where Kim no longer wants to be married to him. And I think that he listened to them, whereas Kim, she kind of did her own thing. That's what happened with that boy. One minute she could see him, then the next Kim was like, and it changed. Anyways, so Ethan is excited to talk to his father. He says if his dad is willing to patch things up, so is he. So we see Ethan and Micah arrive at the Plath home. And even though they are currently separated, Barry is telling us that he, feels bad and he's still concerned about Ethan and Kim. The little girls come running out the house because they're so excited to see Micah and Ethan. He can't even get off his helmet before they are embracing him with hugs. And as I saw them doing it, I was smiling because there's a lot of love there. So he shakes Barry's hand and then Isaac sticks his hand out to shake it and he pulls him in. So even though they're being cordial, you can tell there's still some stuff there. And I kind of feel like they should have spoken about their own issues before they talked about the situation with Kim and Barry. But it's very much so giving that Ethan is going to act like him and his dad are good. And they don't even need to talk about that, when I feel like they did, because his father played a part as well. Kim may be very neck-like in turning his head, but she didn't hold a pow-pow to his head in order to do it. Barry had free will, and in his will, he chose to listen to his wife. So Ethan enters the home and he didn't even realize it was this big. He tells us it's like 2 times bigger than what they had growing up. He gets a tour. Lydia and Amber share a room. Mercy and I think her name is Cassia. I always forget Cassia. I always forget the youngest one. They share another room. And then Isaac has his own room. They don't tell him about the other stuff going on. So he notices how different things are. So they go down. They see the piano. Cassia plays on the piano. Then Ethan plays. Ethan is so chaotic. Like, even when he's playing the piano, he's missing chords and things of that nature. Be clear, I don't play the piano. I used to play the clarinet when I was younger. Wish I kept up with it. I could play like 3 songs on the piano, and it's not because I know notes. It's I just, over the years, I know where I'm supposed to go, what keys I'm supposed to press in what area of the keyboard or the piano, and boom, here we go. But he's very all over the place when he plays. They even do a flashback to his wedding day and him playing on his wedding day because he says he hadn't played that piano since then. So they're very happy. You could tell that the kids needed this moment. So Barry is looking back at it. And he says that his issue was never with his son, that the issue was more between Kim and Olivia. I said, okay, here we go. So at this point, both men are blaming the women. Got it. All of you all were the problem, men including. Olivia and Ethan overstepped at times. Barry, you were very much so passive aggressive at times. You said some things in regards, both of you and Kim, about Olivia. Y'all had judgment in terms of them being too worldly and all those other things. And now that you're in a different place and you're separated, now it's just those two. Got it. So after a while, Barry dismisses the 3 youngest children and has the older ones join him and Ethan in another room. he tells Ethan about the separation. Ethan doesn't really have a reaction at first. I think it was because he was in shock. Like at first I was like, okay, he don't have no reaction to that. But then I realized this is Ethan we're talking about, the guy who normally runs away when there's any type of confrontation or he throws a tantrum in what we see now. Because it seems like over the years, Ethan has gotten more upset and we've seen it on camera versus whatever they were doing in the beginning seasons. But I just felt like he was in shock. He tells us that he is upset and he does need to process it. He's glad that his dad told him in person. And when he tells him that, he's like, dang, I've been there. So Barry's like, look, I get that you've been there with Olivia, but this isn't going to be like you and Olivia because you and Olivia are still together. With me and your mother, it's looking more like, and he spells out the word divorce. He says because he can't bring himself to say it. And as he's having this conversation, you can see how Isaac, Lydia, and Micah are very affected by what is coming out of his mouth. And Lydia is even crying. So Barry talks about how difficult this has all been, that there's like this period of grieving, that there's been hurt and anger and frustration and all those other things. And Ethan can relate because he was separated with Olivia for at least, based on what he's saying, at least 3 months. So he lets his dad, know with him and Olivia, the first 3 months were really hard. And it did over time get better from an emotional standpoint, letting his dad know, like, look, it's going to be rough at first, but at some point it's going to be a little bit easier for you to process, even though, we are still together and you all are talking about separation. Barry said, because he keeps asking Ethan like how he feels about it. And Ethan's like, I got to process this whole thing. So Barry says, there was a period where I noticed that your mother's posture towards me changed. Like she seemed different. We talked and she's let me know that she didn't feel like she had a voice, that she felt like I shut her down and that I took her for granted. And Ethan's like, yeah, I can see that. You guys have been together so long. I can see how, she could feel that way. And he's like, at some point, she just stopped loving me. Now, Lydia is listening to this and the tears are coming down her face. And she tells us that, for the longest time, they were working on things. She thought that they could fix it. So now she's trying to process it. But that's just the point. They weren't working on things. Barry was. I think that the moment that Kim said she was done, she was done. When she said she needed separation, she was done because she didn't do anything to ensure that they were brought back together. She expected for Barry to prove himself, but what was she willing to do? Because it does take two. He can't be willing to make all these changes while you're just trying to be the forever victim, the person who was wronged and all those things. And I don't even think that everything that she says is true, but I can see some areas where she may be speaking truth. I just don't trust Kim. Y'all tell me how you think. So at this point, Ethan says he never saw it coming, that this is, a lot to process. And I'm just sitting there like, okay, this is a major conversation to have on TV. And what's going to end up happening is we're going to see the angry side of Ethan, because Ethan doesn't like to sit in hurt or pain or even think about it. He just jumps to anger. So we see Kim meet up with a guy friend. I think his name was Charles, to complain. She's calling him a friend, but what it sounds like is he is someone that they've previously done business with, because she talks about how he sold this property to her and this property to Barry and her and this property to Ethan, and even, helped find a rental for them. Like, he's done a lot of things in terms of making sure that the family is good when it comes to real estate. So he's her friend, and she's telling him how Barry got to talk to Ethan, but she wasn't allowed to. She was told, that he doesn't want to see her. And she basically feels slighted because she wanted the same opportunity. Now, Charles is hoping that Ethan doesn't make a decision just based on what Barry has told him, just from getting Barry's side of things. I don't feel like this should have been a side thing. But based on the way that we've seen things pan out, I think that it's very clear that for a long time, Barry, out of the two of them, was the one who wouldn't have slung any mud first. I think Barry knew things about Kim, example, that DUI, and he didn't bring it up. I think that he actually showed Kim way more grace than she's shown him at times. But I am also a person who didn't see a lot of these seasons. So like, yeah, I watched all of season 7. I'm just now watching season 4. So I don't know what happened in 5 and 6. So if I'm wrong, please feel free to correct me. To me, Kim is often the one that does the comparison thing. I think that Kim, one of the reasons why, even with the way she's being with the girls and the guys, is because as much as she tries to say like Barry wants to be seen as the cool parent, she wants to. She wants to be seen as a cool parent. You don't go from having these strong feelings about alcoholism and all of this to then next episode we see in the preview that you're going to be out drinking with Micah. That's not realistic to me. It's just not. This is coming from someone who was raised by a very, very, very religious mother who, once she accepted Christ and turned over a new leaf, life was really, really, really strict for me. And to this day, there are things that I will never do in front of my mother out of respect for her belief system. Example, drink. My mother knows that I drink alcohol. My mother has never seen me drink alcohol. She's come to my house and seen a bottle in the fridge, maybe some wine, maybe a little bit of tequila. Sorry, she's seen a little bit of something in there, but I've never drank in front of her. At my cousin's wedding, when everybody was drinking, I was drinking apple cider because I just don't feel right drinking in front of my mom. I don't. I still can't believe my cousin, and I told y'all this, I still can't believe my cousin was drinking in front of my mom at my son's graduation dinner. I was like, what in the world? And I didn't have no alcohol. They bought their own because I was like, I'm not doing that in front of my... Anyways, with that being said, you don't switch up like that. You just don't. So Charles feels like, Kim is his mom, and what she did was out of love. What they did was out of love. I don't want friends who are going to coddle me. Some of it may have been out of love, but there were parts of it that felt controlling in nature to me. If you're my friend, call me out on my crap, which is part of the reason why I say here with this family, you guys aren't always going to agree with the things that I said. There are times where you all have made certain comments in the comment section. I'm like, you know what? You're right. I didn't think of it like that, because that's what it's supposed to be about. Respectfully, call me out on my crap. But, that's not what's happening here. So Charles hopes that Ethan at some point circles back. We know that he does. Kim claims she's committed not to say anything bad about Barry, and she just hopes that he is willing to do the same thing. But she feels like the children aren't going to feel that she's justified in her decision to leave and her choice to leave if they don't hear certain things. None of that matters. It's your choice to leave Barry. It's not the children's choice to leave their father. You're their mom, they're their father. They don't have to know all the ins and outs of things. It's not really their business. All you needed to say is that you all grew apart. The way that Charles was speaking in this conversation, where he said you all just grew apart after some time, that's the way that you should have handled this from the very beginning. All the other things didn't need to be said, but both of them in their own way are trying to plead their case. So Charles tells her not to go to the negative route, and he'll be there in any way that he can for their family. So we see Ethan and the guys go up into Isaac's room. Ethan is still trying to wrap his mind around what's going on. He's questioning everything. He feels like his father has done everything, and he lets it be known that I blame her for this. I blame that lady. I don't want nothing to do with that lady. Micah is looking at him like, I know you're not sitting here talking about my mama. Not my Kim. So he says, I'm not liking the way that you're talking about our mom. You're pissing me off, and I really don't like your attitude towards our mom. He says, I may not understand everything, but that's our mom and I love her. That's more than fair. If one of my siblings was talking crap about, my parent, I'd probably feel a way about that too. I completely understand. I also feel like Ethan is justified in questioning his mother's motives. I also feel like Ethan is justified in feeling like, oh, you sat there and said all of this, but now here you are doing the complete opposite. That's a lot to process. And Micah, you've had more time to process it than Ethan. I just wish Ethan would have some of these conversations with his parents rather than with his younger siblings. Micah, go ahead. Y'all are both older. Isaac, he still very much so lives with his parents. Micah had to tell him to stop bad-mouthing their mom. Ethan tells us that Micah is not the type to get upset. So the fact that Micah says something, he realized he need to kind of pull it back a little bit. Micah tells him, you heard Dad's side, and I understand how you feel about it. I feel bad for Dad too, but you should also, hear my mom's side of things, not just take sides. Both Isaac and Micah say, like, she's changed. She's not the same person. And Isaac's like, yeah, she's the cool mom now. Her being the cool mom now means absolutely nothing to me. Because why all of a sudden have all of your beliefs just been tossed to the ground? That's where I struggle with Kim. Ethan doesn't trust it. Mike is concerned about what he'll say to Olivia. And he's like, I'm not going to really tell Olivia anything. All I'm going to tell Olivia is that, they're divorced. And Mike is like, Olivia's going to want to know the ins and outs. And he's like, well, I'm not going to tell her. He can't tell her. He doesn't know the ins and outs himself. He says, I'm not going to tell her anything. Really, with everything that's happened, I actually hold a grudge against my mom and against Olivia. I said, what? You hold a grudge with the both of them? Olivia, y'all should have been divorced right then. He's over the drama. The little girls come in and they take a picture and that's it. Your man that was moping and doing all this other stuff for the 3+ months that y'all separated, who wanted you back so badly, is now in this instance sitting here saying that he has resentment. Basically, he's holding a grudge against you, who he's married to, and his mother. This is so much deeper than what we've seen. But you all let me know what you thought of this episode. Thank you guys so much. Like the video as it helps the channel. Until next time, peace.